It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
So here we go again with Democrats being absolutely shocked at the natural consequences of their own actions. This seems to be a concept that is very difficult for them to understand. But as we tried to warn them yesterday, a government shutdown was not a good idea for the Democrat Party for really three major reasons. Reason number one: the general optics of telling Americans that you forced a government shutdown in order to pay for free healthcare for illegal aliens is just not that good of a look. It is not a winning position. I don't think we have to explain much more. But number two, it is further worth noting that the major constituency groups of the Democrat Party heavily rely on federal funds much more than Republican voters, which is to say, they're going to have to now go to their constituents and explain to them why in order to own Trump, we basically ruined your entire life. Some examples of that include the very fact that the vast majority of federal workers, as I'm sure you know, are overwhelmingly Democrats. Not to mention the vast numbers of Democrat voters who receive the government benefits that Democrats claim they're trying to save, but right now they have just frozen for the American people. And thirdly, and perhaps the most important topic of today's video, is just the idiotic logic of we're going to stop Trump from shutting down the government by ourselves shutting down the government. What do we mean by that? Well, you may remember, as we covered, that a major demand of Democrats was basically a freezing of all DOJ actions, right? They wanted to rein in presidential authority when it came to freezing federal funds or laying off federal workers. Well, big news flash here, ladies and gentlemen. It's true now. It was true back in March when they almost did this over Elon Musk and DOJ, which is that when you shut down the government, you obviously give the president a ton of unilateral authority to control where federal funds go and control the federal workforce and laying off and furloughing people. Because newsflash, at those periods, Congress has no ability for oversight whatsoever. And that is exactly what is happening here today. As you can see, the Office of Management and Budget Director, Russ Voigt, who basically right now has a free rein to do whatever he wants with federal funding, because again, Congress decided to shut down the government, just froze $18 billion for New York City's infrastructure projects. This is further significant, not just because of Zohran Mamdani, which will kind of tie into this, but further because it directly impacts the home states of both Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, and this is happening why? It is a result of the government shutdown, because Congress has not appropriated funds, they've not set out the New Year's fiscal budget, and so basically now you can freeze money essentially as you wish, right? And the reason given there is that, quote, to ensure funding is not flowing based on unconstitutional DEI principles. Now, Democrats, let me ask you a question. Are you unhappy with this? Are you going to call this an abuse of power? Oh, that's very interesting. Well, in order to rein it in or do something, you know what you're going to have to do, ladies and gentlemen? You're going to have to open the government. So this is it, right? Keep allowing Trump to be a so-called dictator in your eyes, or open the government and vote for the GOP's clean continuing resolution bill that simply extends basically the same budget we had before and stop demanding these ridiculous things over illegal alien healthcare and all this other garbage and nonsense. However, if you're going to keep fighting on those ridiculous hills and continue to keep on trying to appease your radical and angry and violent far left voter base that is demanding you fight hard against Trump, then it can keep enjoying as Trump continues to steamroll the federal government. I mean, seriously, I think the right-wing MAGA is right now sitting around saying, okay, Democrats, we have all day here, you know, either you end your temper tantrum or it keeps going, but you know what? We're going to get what we want done anyway. You guys are the ones who really need to open the government right now. And that said, we'll tell you more about this story in today's video because it's hysterical. Again, you know, you see this case over and over again. There's something about the political left, and just not understanding what we might call second or third order consequences of actions, whether that's them celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, not understanding the ramifications that was going to have, or this right here, or, you know, the way in which they show up to ICE facilities and then cause a riot and are like, why am I in jail right now, right? Because that's kind of the natural order of how the world works. When you do things, you know, there is a equal reaction to it. But apparently, you know, they're the party of like, oh, let's just do things that are really dumb and then not understand why bad things are happening, right? So we'll tell you about that though, guys. First, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Doing so ensures that we can keep doing these types of videos, I should say, and we greatly appreciate your support here. And that said, you know, just doubling down on that earlier point, you're basically dealing here when it comes to leftists with overgrown children, right? These people are extremely immature on both a emotional level and an overall life level. You very often see, especially among left-wing activists, these seem like people who just never learned basic lessons from their parents as children. That's why they think they're allowed to block roads and riot and do all this crazy stuff and are shocked, and they claim they got, body slammed or something when ICE came after them. And same exact story here. That said, I do want to show you today's reaction from Zohran Mamdani, because if you watch some of our recent content, this all ties back together, because recently Trump did make the pledge that if Zohran gets elected to New York City and enacts his radical sanctuary city agenda and all that garbage, that he is going to strip federal funds for New York City. Because Zohran has all these like socialist campaign promises, but yeah, buddy, good luck funding them if the federal government refuses to give you money. And it seems like in that sense, Christmas has come early here in terms of defunding New York, because the government shutdown is a preemptive reason to do so. And exactly today, that is the same time where Zohran Mamdani was on The View, and he is completely fuming at the Trump administration over this idea of stripping the funding. So let's take a listen to the tears and the whining.
Says that he'll withhold, this really is something. Trump says that he will withhold federal funding for New York City if you win. Can he do that, number one? And my question is that going to stop people from voting for you?
You know, this is just one of the many threats that Donald Trump makes. Every day he wakes up, he makes another threat, a lot of the times about the city that he actually comes from. And what is angering to me is not what Donald Trump does, because we've come to expect that from him, but it's the idea that we have to accept that as the law. The idea that we have to accept that as normal. We have to fight that, because we know not only is it an overreach from a federal administration, it's an example of what he's done elsewhere.
Yeah, so we have to stand up and fight it, says Zohran Mamdani. Except I again ask the question, fight it how if you've shut down the government? Good luck getting federal funding anyway, by the way, if you shut down the government, because guess what's not flowing during a government shutdown? Federal government funding in general, okay? But as usual, it's yet another example of this guy just throwing out platitudes as answers to problems, and then all of the insane Democrat voter bases basically go out and say, he's so brilliant, he's so smart, I appreciate he's fighting back against Trump, even though none of what he says actually makes any sense, right? He says, we're going to pay for all of these programs for free buses that are going to be full of violent vagrants and, illegal aliens, and trans healthcare for free and all this stuff. How are you going to do that? Oh, I'm going to raise taxes. Wait, but you don't have control over the income tax, because only the state legislature in the state of New York can control those. No, we're going to tax the rich. Just trust me. What are you going to, sales tax or something? Like, nobody knows what that even means, right? But of course, this is the strategy, is he's basically just this empty vessel that, talks a lot, talks really good like ChatGPT, and that is basically the answer. But when you delve into the more specific aspects of this, you again realize why what Democrats are currently doing is just so utterly stupid. And I want to show you some of the examples of that, of other aspects of this government shutdown here as reported by the AP. You first of all have more federal agencies publicly blaming Democrats for the shutdown while others stay neutral. Oh, but the federal agencies, right? We care about them so much, the federal workers, they're such good people. How dare the conservatives demonize them? But let's also shut them down, apparently. Again, makes so much sense. So it's saying here that at least 8 federal agencies are publicly blaming the government shutdown on Democrats or the left, a move that critics say misuses government websites in a partisan messaging war. Yeah, well, we don't care, okay? First of all, it's the truth. And secondly, yeah, because that's totally one-sided. You know, that's never been done in the reverse. Okay, obviously, when you control the White House, there's going to be a degree of partisan slant of things that come out of the White House. That's not really all that shocking. Anyways, other agencies are posting neutral messages, noticing the lapse in appropriations may disrupt some services. But the Department of Housing and Urban Development on Tuesday, for instance, blamed the radical left for any potential shutdown. By Wednesday, similarly toned messages had popped up on at least 7 other agency websites, including the Department of Justice, HHS, and the Department of Agriculture, and many others. But by the way, it's not just the federal agencies working under Trump's executive branch. We even have a Democrat congressman, in this case, Jared Golden of Maine. He himself is blaming the quote-unquote far left for the government shutdown, faulting here left-wing groups for causing the government shutdown. And yes, even a Democrat here is saying, guess what? It's hurting working people in his state. Oh, it's almost as if like one Democrat out of these hundreds is self-aware again that actually Democrat constituents oftentimes rely on the government, whether it's for work or for benefits. This is not a good idea to play politics over this. And then to tell those people who maybe, you know, considering your party's at like a 30% approval rating, it's not going so well for you, that, hey, not only are we shutting it down, we're shutting it down to give healthcare to illegal aliens. I mean, you know, I'm not sure that's the best idea. But anyways, Golden is a moderate Democrat, as some of you may know. He said in the statement that the shutdown is to, quote, the result of hardball politics driven by demands of far-left groups that they're making for Democrat Party leaders to put on a show of their opposition to President Trump. And I've said this as well, right? That is exactly, of course, what is going on. Democrats never actually had any serious plan to get a continuing resolution passed. They basically just wanted to appease all of the people right now who are pushing, for instance, an AOC primary challenge against Chuck Schumer. He is literally trying to, give the far radical left what they want. Except there's 2 problems. You're alienating the rest of America in the process, number 1. And number 2, that's not going to work. They still don't like you, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. I don't know when you're going to understand that, these people are insane. You know, by the way, you're insane too, but still, like, the idea that you're going to appease them, I think that ship has sailed. Nonetheless, you can see further, consequences of this. An IRS watchdog is currently noting that the workforce cuts in their labor force at the IRS will impact the 2026 tax season. Oh no, the horror, right? We're not going to have enough IRS agents to be auditing everyone. Yeah. So again, just more examples of how stupid this idea is for the Democrat Party. But all of that said, I now want to shift to show you some of the ridiculous reactions today by Democrat politicians on this issue of the shutdown, because you can just further realize and see exactly how unserious this entire political stunt is. And let us first of all start with Mrs. AOC, who is saying here that, quote, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Essentially arguing that, hey, any bill on a government shutdown or continuing resolution has to go through me. You have to negotiate with Democrats, don't you know? Except there's just one problem, AOC. You're in the House. Okay? The continuing resolution bill already passed the House, because the House of Representatives has a Republican majority. The only place that has not passed is the Senate, because in the Senate, in order to pass a budget bill, you need 60 votes. So, in other words, what we're trying to say here is that AOC has no power over this. Her voice, her will, her vote doesn't actually matter. But here you see yet another performative case of grandstanding, unserious Democrats basically using the entire thing as a political stunt that is not even a smart or effective political stunt. So take a listen.
This is about people being able to insure their children. And I will say, because I saw some senators speculating about this, and I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate, because what we're not going to do is allow all of millions of people in this country to not be able to afford their insulin and their chemotherapy. So come strike a deal with me if that's what they really think is going on.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not exactly sure that uninsured Americans is the right term for those people. But nonetheless, there you see AOC apparently thinking that the situation is about her, despite the fact that she has no voting power. It doesn't even matter. I don't even know why she's on TV to talk about government shutdown. But I guess that's kind of an admission as to, I guess maybe she does have a point, right? Who's really driving the negotiating process here? Because we all know that Schumer is indeed trying to appease the AOC wing of the party in order to stave off a potential primary challenge by AOC in 2028. That's not much of a conspiracy theory. That said, let us now take a listen to the defense of all of this by Chuck Schumer himself, because now we're up in the Senate. It actually matters. Okay, this is the Democrat leadership, not just some far-left loonbag who's popular with a certain wing of the party, except that his defense of the government shutdown did not go much better either. So take a listen.
Every Republican who's gone on TV the last 12 hours or so has called this the Schumer shutdown. What do you say about that name? Senator Schumer, can you hear me?
I can't hear.
Senator Schumer, can you hear me? I don't think Senator Schumer can hear me right now. Maybe the government shutdown included audio on Capitol Hill. One of the things that Republicans are also doing, and they're doing it in the White House press briefing room, is the running sound of Democrats talking about shutdowns in the past, including sound of you. This is the type of thing you've said about shutdowns in the past. Let's listen.
What if I persuaded my caucus to say I'm going to shut the government down? I'm going to not pay our bills unless I get my way. It's a politics of idiocy, of confrontation, of paralysis. Shutting down government over a policy difference is self-defeating. We can never hold American workers hostage again. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down.
That was you 3 times in the past. Go ahead. What's different this time?
Yeah, that was in March, John, before they had done these horrible things to health care, before they had introduced these rescissions which would allow them to ignore the budget process. And the bottom line is, when I was majority leader, we had 13 times to vote on a budget. Do you know why there was no shutdown? We sat and negotiated with the Republicans every time. They got some things, we got some things. They did not negotiate at all. They refused, despite repeated entreaties by Hakeem and me, to go to the White House to sit down with Thune and Johnson. Look, if you want to know who wants a shutdown, look at the House.
Yeah, no, except that's not actually true, Chuck. Because first of all, nothing changed. The only one who changed is you. Because the bill that Republicans were offering to pass was the same exact continuing resolution to fund the government that Democrats already negotiated and agreed on back in March of this year. So what is different? You're going to make excuses about exterior policies that were passed through reconciliation, which has nothing to do with the annual budget. Okay, fine. But in reality, we know what this is all about. Nothing changed about the bill or the laws or anything. It is specifically because, of course, you saw the far left reaction last time, and again, you are trying to appease that very radical left-wing base of your own party, and we know what it's all about, okay? That's the easiest way to explain all these old videos where Schumer says government shutdowns are bad, they hurt workers, all this stuff, but now suddenly he's going back on all of it, okay? That's politics. That's someone who is very desperate to salvage or do damage control among their own voters, and that's what's going on, number one. But secondly, right, to sit there and claim like he was negotiating in good faith is just utterly ridiculous. You're standing there with no leverage and, of course, making some of the most outlandish demands ever and then saying Republicans wouldn't speak to us. Republicans wouldn't take us seriously. Yeah, maybe because Trump called your bluff that you guys are a bunch of clowns credit to Trump for doing so, by the way, because I think many other Republicans would have said, okay, let's talk. You want illegal alien healthcare? You know, we don't want to have the bad precedent or the bad image of shutting down the government. And Trump is just basically saying, no, we're going to do it. We're going to blame it on you. It is your fault. Screw you guys. Like, we're not sitting there and dealing with that. We're not capitulating on ridiculous demands like this when, again, you guys don't even hold a single chamber in the government, and you're going to sit here and try to hold everything hostage over this nonsense. And by the way, that nonsense is exactly what is going on, because even Representative Ro Khanna today, one of the Democrats who is like sometimes sensible or willing to go on Fox or whatever, has himself even admitted that the money Democrats are asking for is indeed intended for illegal aliens, which is exactly what we've been saying the entire time. So take a listen.
In terms of health care, the reality is they're just not being honest. The amount of money that actually is going towards people who are undocumented is such a small portion of the Medicaid cuts or the Affordable Care Act, if at all. And so we can argue that point, but the reality that even the vice president would acknowledge, that anyone who looks at the numbers will acknowledge, is 90 to 95% of the funding we're talking about is talking about funding for American citizens.
Oh, wait a minute. So you admit that you're doing that. You do want to give healthcare money to illegals. Oh, it's just a small amount. It's not a lot of money. Oh, yeah, sure. By the way, I remember 3 months ago during the Big Beautiful Bill debate when Democrats claimed this was a conspiracy theory. They said illegal aliens do not receive Medicaid. It's against the law. Federal government doesn't allow it. We responded by trying to tell you, yes, but Medicaid is a joint program with the states, and many states allow it or do not verify immigration status. They just called us conspiracy theorists. But now we went from no illegal alien is receiving healthcare benefits from the government to now only a small amount of illegals are. Wait a minute, what? And the part you're mad at, you're trying to put that back into the federal budget after we stripped it out through the Medicaid reform. Okay. So that, first of all, is another example of how unserious the demands of Democrats are. But not only are they unserious about their demands, they're unserious in general, because I further want to point out that they've spent the entire week not just melting down over free healthcare for illegals, but further around this meme right here that you might have seen, but we're going to play it for you, as posted by Donald Trump on both X and Truth Social, because apparently every media outlet that's calling this racist and offensive refuses to actually show you what was said, arguably because the meme actually highlights a lot of truth, even if it is AI. So take a listen.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know, at least for a while, until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
So here you had a meme that was obviously AI. It's like satire, but it's also meant to prove a very true point. You know, the sentiment there of what Chuck is summing up is an accurate statement about the Democrat Party. I would venture to guess there's probably a reason why all these news outlets that covered it said Trump shared this AI-generated fake racist video, but didn't actually play the footage. I think it was an ABC host even said, I'm not going to play it because it's so offensive and it's not even newsworthy, but you're talking about it on the news. And furthermore, why don't you want to play it? Oh, because if people watched it, they would be like, first of all, that's hilarious. Secondly, there's like a true point being conveyed through this AI meme, which is honestly usually the case, right? You can use satire to still tell a hint of truth amidst all of it, right? But not only do we have Democrats, again, fighting for healthcare for illegals, but you may have missed it, but they've spent this entire week melting down over this meme, saying it was racist and it was offensive and it was deep fake misinformation. And it's funny Because Democrats have recently tried to say, oh, we need to embrace digital literacy. Like, we need to use social media the way Trump uses it. There's a reason why Gavin Newsom's press office is always trying to post all these memes. And it only took about 2 seconds for them immediately to go back to, that's AI, that's racist, you can't do that. You can't joke about things on social media.
That's right. And then what does that shameful man do? After a meeting where you're supposed to be working out details, where you're supposed to be negotiating a deal, you post something that draws a sombrero and a mustache on the leader.
So the party here who's supposedly actually trying to do serious negotiations, clearly acting so serious, right? Spending an entire week melting down over a meme. That said, today in the White House press briefing, J.D. Vance had a pretty perfect response to this as well. So take a listen.
So the president's been posting some images of Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer.
I saw
recently. You've said that you're interested in good faith negotiations with these leaders, but what message does that send? Is it helpful to post pictures of Leader Jeffries in a sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' positions, and even, poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop. And I've talked to the President of the United States about that. And the sombrero thing, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries said it was racist, and I know that he said that, and I honestly don't even know what that means. Like, is he a Mexican-American that is offended by having a sombrero meme? I mean, I saw one of the major TV stations put the meme up and then say, this is AI generated. And he had like the curly animated mustache too. It's like, do you really not realize the American people recognize that he did not actually come to the White House wearing a sombrero and a black curly animation mustache? Like, give the country a little bit of credit. We're all trying to do a very important job for the American people. The President of the United States likes to have a little bit of fun when he's doing it, and I think that's okay. I'll take one more question.
And yes, by the way, that was ABC News. We actually played their video yesterday where they had to put this big disclaimer on this photo that is obviously fake, saying it's a AI-generated image. Apparently, they think Americans are that stupid. Although, I don't know, maybe their viewers and maybe Democrat voters are that stupid where it needs to be clarified. Not exactly sure, but I think for the rest of us, here we go again with these people making utter fools out of themselves. And so, guys, not only are Democrats destroying themselves with the government shutdown, not only are they losing in the negotiations because we're basically saying we refuse to accept your dumb premise and you have no leverage here, but we're having fun doing it at their expense while they look really stupid melting down over a sombrero. Okay? Well, of course, and by the way, the reason that's there is a joke, obviously, but why is it? Because you want to give a bunch of healthcare to illegal aliens, okay? So we're mocking you and ridiculing you. And you claim, Democrats can take a joke. We're not woke. We're going to be like with the times. We're going to use the internet now after 2024 because we get it. No, you don't. You still don't get it. Okay. But with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless, peace, and... Yeah, it's so true. All right. See you guys later.